Thank you for coming tonight to the town of Exeter, New Hampshire. Exeter Historic District Commission meeting. It's Thursday, February 20th, 2020, and it is 7 p.m. We are going to have, first on the agenda, the new business public hearing for the application of the Gardner House Condominiums, LLC, for change to an existing structure located on 12 Front Street. The applicant is requesting modifications of a previous approval granted by the commission in February 2018 for changes to the main house. The subject property is located in the C1 Central Area Commercial Zoning District and is case number 20-02. All right, come on up and explain the application to us, if you don't mind.
Puppy. I assume this is working,
Yes.
if we need it. Good evening, my name is Stephen McHenry from McHenry Architecture. We're located in Portsmouth, New Hampshire for many years. We're here tonight to discuss modifications to 12 Front Street, an addition to the rear of the building, project that you should be familiar with at this point, since it's right next door. The package of information I'll go through, but a little bit of background. We brought this concept to the board a month ago, and it was really a rough concept only to modify the approved demolition of the carriage house structure on the rear of the addition, on the rear addition of the building. And in turn, the owner, Charles Seafried, was here tonight, would like to have a garage, two-car garage in the location where the previously approved demolition was to occur. Sorry to make that sound so confusing. But I think the general project description on page 1 of your packets, and I'm assuming everybody has a packet. So this is a revision to the previously approved partial demolition porch addition to the rear of the existing house. The revised design proposes the same demolition with a replacement structure of similar size and scale, with detailing to match the existing main house and removed portion of the building. The replacement structure will have a two-car garage and code-compliant stair access to the main house. You see on the cover sheet the locus map that shows our location, which needs no further explanation. If you turn to page 2 on the package, you'll see that this establishes the context and the location of the project. The upper left-hand corner is from Front Street. You can see the main building and the cascading additions to the rear. To the right-hand side is where that carriage house look is located. On the upper right-hand corner picture, you'll see the area in discussion tonight about which we were going to replace that addition with with a two-car garage. On the lower left and the lower right, you'll see 2 other photos which give you an idea of the detailing of the building around the back, as well as how it attaches to the existing structure. It's important for us, when we deal with changes to historic structures, to do a couple of things. One is to try to create a structure or a change that is not confusing historically to the overall structure. We know this is an important structure to the downtown and historic district in Exeter. So what you'll see in this design is not mere mimicry of what's there, but a way to bring it into 21st century use by being able to have a two-car garage without destroying the character of the rear of the house. If you go to A2, the next page, you'll see what has been previously approved in terms of the elevations of the front and rear of the building, a section through the rear of the carriage house structure, as well as a floor plan on the lower right-hand side, which show a porch on the far right and the dotted dashed line around the footprint of the existing structure. This was what was approved, and it was the removal of the rear portion of the building, the one-story addition to the rear. If you go to the next page, the previously approved site plan, again, it's a little hard to read. I apologize for the scale of these things to try to fit in this format. But you can see the historic house, 12 Front Street on the left-hand side footprint, and then the addition at the rear called Construct New Entryway, See Architectural Plans. That's what was approved before. What we brought to you the last time we were here was a concept for putting a garage in the location of this rear addition. It was discussed that the detailing and the massing of the new considered garage structure was inappropriate to the historical detailing of the existing building. And therefore, we've taken great pains, I believe, to change and make our addition more sympathetic to the existing house. So what you see on page A4 is a floor plan on the upper left-hand corner, which shows the two-car garage and the staircase. It also shows the footprint with dimensions all around it. You'll see that the massing is set in and out such that the original footprint is respected. The reason I say that is if you look at the lower left-hand side elevation, which is the rear of the building, you can see we've maintained the width of the structure in the rear. In the lower right-hand corner, we've maintained the shed roof addition, which is what exists now. You'll also note that all the window locations on that rear elevation are what exists now. In the upper right-hand corner, you'll see the same a similar treatment of the entries of the three elliptical archways that constitute the major architectural feature of the rear addition. We've showed in the notes that are on the drawings that the trim and the windows will be wood, authentic wood. We haven't gone through the exercise with the treatment of the existing windows on the main historic house as yet, but we're assuming that authentic single light, divided light windows will be used consistently through the rest of the restoration when that occurs. So you'll see that on the upper right-hand front elevation, the elliptical treatment has two garage doors and an entry door, which is similar in type to the existing rear elevation entry door. And we can discuss the materials used and the details required here when we complete this walkthrough. But if you go to the last page, A5, there's a simple three-dimensional, 3D model of the addition in yellow. You'll see in the upper left-hand corner, that view shows the three archways, two for garage door entry for cars, treatment of the windows that are similar to what's existing now. And on the lower left-hand corner, you'll see the rear elevation, which shows the setback shed roof, as well as the window locations around the back, which are similar to what's there now. There are a couple of product cut sheet examples shown here, the Brosco wood windows, as well as a profile of the gutter system, which we're recommending to be used at the roof line as well. So that's a quick run through. Be happy to answer any questions you may have. Appreciate your input.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
I'll just go down the line. Valerie, any questions, comments?
Oh, it looks pretty similar from this. I mean, it looks kind of the same, looks pretty good.
Yes, I appreciate that you've kept the triple archway. I do miss the lattice work.
You know what? We do too. It's really unique.
Yes,
If you look at the lattice work, it's not the typical lattice that we see even today in wood lattice and heaven forbid vinyl lattice. But it's very thick and broad and stands off the building quite a bit. It's impossible to use that same detail and create an operable garage door, although we did research on that to see if we could. We don't feel that we could do that and have it operable and maintain the widths and the proportions of what's there now. So we made our best effort here. And again, we're not trying to reproduce and completely make a mimicry of what's there now, but get the spirit of it as best we can.
Okay, great.
that's all I had to say.
Curtis?
No, I like the level of detail that you've gone into in preservation. And you looked at the structure that was existing, and I believe we had a previous structural report that said that it was inadequate. Did you take additional look at that structure?
We looked at the structure. We didn't do a full analysis with an engineer, but I think in order to change the use to a garage, the existing structure would have been inadequate.
Yeah.
Without completely removing and reassembling on a new foundation, a new slab, I think it would have been difficult to do, not to mention the proportions and exact dimensions of those openings and garage doors don't correspond to what's there now exactly. So,
In the windows on the upper level, are you proposing a fixed unit, or is that a venting unit of some sort?
which ones are you referring to?
So that is the upper level, anything that's on above the garage door, both in the front and back, is shown as a 9 light.
Right, I believe that the 9 lights are fixed windows and not double hungs, I may be wrong about that. But what we're trying to do is reproduce the window pattern that's there now. So if it's a fixed light, 9 light, that's what we'll use in the new proposed design.
Thank you.
I believe what exists there are a 9-light cottage. It's a 6/3.
6/3,
Yeah.
I wasn't too sure of that, I'm sorry to say. I didn't know if that was some sort of added storm on the exterior or not. What we're proposing and what we've done in the past is, when it's really important to maintain the wood, single light windows, is to put a storm panel on the inside so that the exterior is authentic and it's casting of shadows and light, and you're not seeing a big panel of storm window covering it over and reflecting and hiding the detail.
Yeah, a modern 6/3 is really gonna give you a much heavier mullion pattern in the
Yeah.
middle of anything
And if that
that's
is
there
indeed
right
what's
now.
there now, that's what we
It's-
would do.
I think the fixed would actually look more appropriate there than something that was like a 6/3 in a contemporary window.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Is there functional space where you've got on this side elevation 3 on A4? It calls out second floor at 10 feet. Is there livable space above the garage?
It would not be livable space, it would be more storage. So
You know,
we're not presuming it to be.
A
livable
loft
space.
that would not have a
Exactly.
formal stair to it or anything?
Exactly.
So the windows up there, for purposes of egress or anything else, does not need to be operable. They could be fixed.
Yes.
Okay. And is the space going to be heated? Most likely not, as a garage space?
We haven't discussed storage
We haven't discussed
in the
that,
storage
to be
area.
honest with you.
Okay. Didn't know if that would impact your window choice or not, if you did want to heat it.
Again, we would go with the choice of putting a storm panel in the interior,
Okay,
if that were the case, so it wouldn't impact the exterior.
okay. Go ahead.
Just to clarify, just for my own information, you said the footprint is exactly the same. It hasn't increased at all in this newest design. It's the same, is it the same as it was?
It's the same overall length of the building and the same
Okay.
width, where you see that 16.25 to the corner.
Yep,
We've attempted to maintain that so that it's the same massing as what's there now.
okay. And is there, on the back of the garage, there's the, I don't know what you call, the little.
It's a shed
The
addition.
shed
Yeah.
addition.
Yes.
That's also within the footprint, or is that's additional?
That's additional.
That's added,
additional.
yes.
Okay. And that's mainly because you needed for the length of cars?
Yes.
Because it's too short now?
That's correct.
Okay.
And that was, just, Glenn, for your information, that was a direct response to our work session,
Yep,
where the original concept was the full width, and it was a much shorter roof pitch, or much shorter volume. And we asked it to be more respectful to the existing volumes that are
Yeah.
there. So
Okay.
this is certainly a step in the right direction.
I think it looks good. My other question is on the garage doors. And I know that there is an entrance door on the existing building. And I'm just curious what the garage doors are, what they're made of, and how you blend the entrance door into that first, well, I'll call it a bay because it looks like a
Right.
bay from the
It is set in a
drawing.
bit. Well, as it says in the note, there's a 5-panel flush wood overhead door. So that you can see 5
Yeah.
horizontal members in each of the ellipses. The center and the right-hand side on the front elevation version are plain painted wood 5-panel garage doors. They're not attempting to be something fancier than they are. And then where the door is, that would be built in the same fashion, except an actual door frame built for an operable door.
Okay. Okay.
Any other questions, comments?
I think I'm
You'll have
set
more
for a
time.
moment,
Okay.
yeah.
Doug?
Very elegant design, very nice. To me, it looks like you really are going pretty much all historic. It's doesn't look modern at all, I guess. Materials would be a clue, and the fact that it's freshly painted. But I like it, I like it. It is worrisome about how the garage doors are gonna look. I think that might take some of the cleanness away, depending
I
on how
agree,
much
it's
you
just,
spend
it's
on
kind
them.
of a struggle to figure it out. I mean, you can look at 1,000, it feels like I've looked at 1,000 garage doors to
Yeah.
make this, find something appropriate here.
Yeah,
Certainly nothing like the lattice, that treatment that's there now
yeah.
exists that I know of.
Well, you're gonna
It
have to
wouldn't
spend
have-
some money to get a nice one, and the door is rectangular, it's not arched, so there'll be a line across.
Right.
And then there'll be a line at the bottom. So there'll be more articulation than we see in these drawings, but, I think that comes with the territory.
Right.
It's just that it would be good to have the nicest garage door you could find there, because it's gonna be in your face pretty much. The only thing I kind of wonder about, and this is just a comment, I mean, just not asking you to redo anything, it just, the windows seem a little square to me, and not as vertical as some, but what do you know about the history of the house? How old is it, what was it used for, and so on?
Well, frankly, I haven't done any kind of research on the main house.
Yeah, this.
We've
this-
just been,
Yeah, this house goes back to the early 1800s. I'm
Yeah.
going to say 1820 probably it was done.
Well, there's some period when
Yeah.
everything, the windows were tiny,
Yeah.
and then they got bigger over time. But the proportions, it may just be the drawings, but to my
It
eye,
may
they
well
seem a little
be.
square. You might
Yeah.
want to spend some time figuring out what proportions you can get, you know.
It wasn't
absolutely.
actually a carriage house. What you've got here was the well house. So you want to be careful where you park that car.
Back out. Yeah,
And then I was also informed that it was the owners of the town hardware store
that's right.
Yes, they were.
owned it.
The garden,
Yes.
yes.
And they used that back area
As
their-
overstock.
Yeah,
to
that,
store supplies.
that was
and
their,
overstock.
that was their storage area, yes. Because if you look at the little hardware store, there's no place where you could keep all your back inventory.
Right. So I'll be curious what we find out there.
You'll find probably quite a bit.
we also find a very interesting structure, structurally. I mean, the post and beam structures work there is early. And I thought I saw some material that said it was 1815, the original house, which would make sense as a federal period,
Yeah,
high-blown federal period version.
Huh.
But that rear portion with the post and beam structure is early.
yeah.
It doesn't look like it was put on later or late 19th century at all.
Yeah, it was original with the house.
Okay.
It's the old big house, back house barn.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, what we had, did you have a chance to look at the presentation from the previous iterations of this?
Yes,
Okay, so in that presentation, it showed that third edition or that third piece was part of the original structure. when it was
okay,
built.
I wasn't,
Yeah, in 1816,
16 to 20.
I think.
yeah,
is when it
makes
was.
sense.
Well, I think you've come up with some great massing. I think to me, it looks just right. I think the success will depend on the skill of the builders and the quality of the materials you use and
Agreed.
how well they're put together.
Well, Mr. Gardner was a very wealthy man. And of course, he had access to the finest materials. And he wanted to build his beautiful house right smack in the middle of downtown so that everyone could see what a great house he had. Yeah, that's,
A little bit counterintuitive to the Federalist claim that there are these
oh, come on.
democratic,
Oh,
no royalty,
oh, yeah.
new democracy.
It was a model home for his business.
It's a wonderful place, it really is. We feel privileged to be able to work on it. But where there is a question about, that you raised about the window types, if there's a question, we would defer to what's there now in terms of window type, glass size. I mean, the
Just
old-
try and match the proportions to the extent that it's
Yeah.
possible, given standard window dimensions.
And I started out doing cabinet work and building windows in an old shop many years ago. And those windows were ordered by glass size, so
Yeah,
it made it simple because the glass was shipped from somewhere else. So if you had 7 by 8 inch glass, that determined everything else that the window, trim, placement, Muntin size,
Makes sense?
all that stuff went through. So we can very easily confirm the glass locations and sizes.
Yeah, on the lower level of the new addition, those proportions are more landscape than they are portrait in terms of the.
I'm sorry, what page are you on?
A4, and elevation 3 and 4,
Yes,
the double hung windows right now. So those lights are just the wrong orientation in terms of landscape versus being
okay.
portrait in their design.
Well, if when you vote on this, I'm not sure how you go about your process here, but if they want to include a provision that the windows match.
I would say
Exist there now, would be happy to comply.
it would be to the extent of using the front home as the model for the light proportions in the rear, keeping the same proportion. So if the front home was, 8 by 10, then the rear could be, 7 by 9 or something like that.
Right.
It's the same proportion. And I'm gonna go out, a little bit out on a limb here, looking at the existing pictures of the home. On A1, the lower left-hand corner that shows that access door
Yeah.
in the rear there, I don't think that door was any remotely original to this house at all.
No.
With that oval window, which is screaming 70s with the
It's
shag
screaming
rugs.
kind of outhouse.
Yeah.
actually. But in fact,
I don't know,
it's a wood storm door
yeah,
from a 19th century storm door.
but it's also flush, which is not common. Typically, it could be a raised panel or something,
I think in this case, it's not flush, but it's vertical,
vertical slabs.
yeah, vertical, I think tongue and groove or shiplap with backer battens.
Okay.
I have to look at the inside of the door again. But that, we thought we were being kind of clever to put that door around the corner and make it the entry door to the carriage house itself. Maybe too clever, you tell me.
Well, maybe it was on the back and kind of looks like an outhouse for a reason. I don't know why, maybe.
But you chose not to replicate it.
Right.
Well, that's the challenge of preservation, is that we can't preserve just the 1800s, but do we ignore something that happened 50 years ago?
Exactly.
So I find it interesting to preserve that as a part of the house and part of the history of the house, whether it was 40 years ago or 100 years ago.
Are we doing a disservice by in continuing to include it in basically a vernacular of architecture of the 1800s? That's something that's only 50 years old.
No,
You don't-
absolutely not. No,
you
no.
don't think
No,
so?
I think it's actually an interesting thing to include the history of it and to include something that happened over the years, because the archetype that we're looking at typically was something that was added on, even though that this case in particular was built with the original house, that these are such add-ons and such historical things that changed over time, that to include something that might not have been original is actually an interesting part of the history of the house.
And it wasn't practical to leave a door there where that door is now, because it's too close to the car that would be parked there in the garage, so we thought we would use it around the corner instead.
Yeah. I think it's better without the door.
So the door that's there,
I shouldn't have said
Plywood
outhouse.
roof.
the door
Prejudice you.
that's there existing in that archway is kind of basically almost a hidden door cut into that lattice
Exactly.
work that's there now. So I wonder if we're gonna bring the door out and see it and make it part of something, maybe it should be more appropriate to what a more traditional secondary door would be to the front of the home. Not the formal entry, but
Yeah.
these are all flat stock trims, and, there's
Sure.
not, even the second floor, third floor windows, the headers and all the trim that's around them is flat, as opposed to the first floor windows that have more of a crowned head as their trim.
So maybe a 6-panel door with some lights in it,
that would be mimicking, or not mimicking, but it would be more sensitive to the rest, yeah, the front of the home.
More of the period of the.
Right.
the mansion house.
Yeah.
Well, it's your call. I mean, we thought it was kind of a unique feature that would recall what was there before without trying to be disrespectful to the history of the building,
Yeah.
but your call.
Like I said, we're going out on a limb, leave it up for discussion. Does anyone else have a strong opinion on that?
You know, I really don't care one way or the other. I mean, I can see keeping it, and I can see going the other way. I mean,
But it would be a new door,
yes.
Oh, sure.
made to look like,
Ba-
like
looking,
the old.
it's
It's not
yeah.
a preservation of
I
that
see
door.
that, I do
Okay.
see that.
Yeah.
But, I think, and you know, it's been over 50 years, I think the Hollands put that back door there just so they could get into their backyard without going all the way around.
That's usually why people put doors in.
But,
So on that same thinking, I had gone a step further in the thought of only having 2 arches in the back there and not actually having 3. So where that door is, that you have the new door right now, that would become its own second entry with a window above, centered with a window above. And where the wood panel door is centered over the center arch right there, that would just become another window. So
oh, I
there-
disagree with that. I really like those 3 arches. Keep the 3 arches.
See, there you start to change the history of it and try to recreate something that might have been more historically correct and something that I think a lot of the charm of the New England architecture is that it wasn't this purity of form and these additions on the back of the house.
The Federalist is very regular.
Oh, absolutely. I would not change the front of the house at all. And this is where you step down in quality. Always, when we make a front entry, make it the highest quality that you can of that style. But when you start putting on to the back of the house, that's where you start to get this vernacular of the interpretation of things.
Also, we did run through various options before choosing to go this way. One of it is obviously a practical matter, the width of those doors, we want it to be a standard garage door width and standard way to practically enter in and out with the car. And anything to make a wider opening, the top of that, the head of that ellipse would be even higher if we chose the same way to detail it. And that would really start to change or sort of make an imbalance to the facade treatment, whereas if one thing those Federalists liked was symmetry. And I think that would break that theory up.
I mean, I could see having a flush panel hidden door on that garage facade and not trying to have the oval window, vertical V-groove door. I think that would be an appropriate solution. I don't think a 6-panel door in that location would be true to the back of house form at all.
I would like it better.
A flush panel.
Yeah, a secret door, yeah. But, I mean, it's just either you celebrate the incremental quality of that type of architecture, or you just try and make a good design.
Well, there is a matter also of trying to get some natural light into that entry area, so once you get inside that door, it's gonna be dark on
We
that
have
side.
windows above.
So we thought having a window in the door would be practical.
Even with that loft space above, you're gonna have a lot of light in there from all the other windows coming in, won't you?
That's true, on the rear and on the,
The rear of the building.
again, we're happy to comply with whatever you suggest here, but I think that having it be more of an invisible horizontal panel to match up with the joint lines of the surrounding context there would certainly be acceptable too.
So it's gonna be an effort to make that third arch where that passage door is look like the garage doors that will be there, right?
Right, and if you look at A4, I believe, we've set in that area around that door in the same fashion we've set in the garage doors themselves.
Right.
So you get the same
Yeah.
shadow line, same depth, and the same flush detailing.
So the finished facade of that will be essentially a wood panel like the garage door panel will be.
Yes,
Where is the nearest door on the side of the building to this garage? I can't, I mean, is this door that you have on the garage door, this entranceway, is that the only one on the side, or is there?
I was just
Oh, there's
looking at
one on the main
A1.
Towards
house.
the
Oh,
front
no,
of the
that's
house.
not a,
Well, there's around the back of the house too, there are a pair of doors on the back of the main house,
there is
in
one.
the lower right-hand corner,
Oh,
but it's set back quite a distance from the carriage house addition.
I was just wondering if, I'm not an architect, so I'm speaking from a layperson's point of view, but I'm just wondering if instead of having a door there, I mean, have the feature but not have the door, and maybe going to your idea of maintaining some kind of a door back here as another entrance door. I mean, maybe that would be sufficient, just to have one on the very end of the building. Does
Well, it's
that
a little
make any
tight.
sense?
It's not practical with the car
I know
being
the
there.
cars.
Right, and if you look at A4 in the upper left-hand ground floor plan drawing, there's a sort of half level up staircase. You enter through that door, then there's an access way to the left-hand side that gets you into the main house. It's also a practical matter to have the door close to that location as well.
I see. Makes sense.
On the site plan itself, the existing dimension that we saw on the plan that shows that 18 feet from what was the approved new porch and the edge of the pavement.
Is that right?
A3, yeah. Where it calls out construct new entry, see architectural plans, that was the footprint of the approved new porch. And there's an 18-foot dimension from that edge of that porch to the pavement. Is this still the same pavement orientation or design?
Yes, it is.
So then, the edge of the building must be real close. This proposed must be real close to that edge of pavement, right? Because what we had approved as a reduction of that porch was helping create a buffer between the paved area and the new porch.
Yeah, that was my concern too, when I was looking at it. Just,
Yeah, so here, on A2, the new porch was 16 feet. The rest of that existing footprint was 16 foot 6 inches. So if it's So now it's really only gonna be 1 foot, 1 inch, or 1'6" off of the edge of that pavement. If this is still the same paving plan.
Yes, it is.
It is, okay.
And then the thought was to put a row of arborvitae's going along the edge there.
So you have 1'6",
Right.
which likely is not gonna help screening very well. But it also makes a door on that end impractical.
Yeah.
Because you're gonna be opening that door right into,
You're right.
Pavement.
Arborvitae's.
Or,
or a car that's parked there.
right.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Any other questions or comments for the applicant? Before we open it up to any abutters?
Well, the abutters are just right here. We've got all kinds of things to say, I can see.
Well, I should ask. Is there anyone for or against the application that would like to speak at this time? Hearing none, okay. We can close the public hearing and then have further discussions or ask additional questions of the applicant if we needed. But I'd like to work on a discussion towards a motion for this. First would be a motion for accepting the application, meaning we have enough information to make a decision. And then a second application would be for approval or denial if we accept the application.
I move to approve,
Accept the application as as complete.
yes.
I second.
All right, all in favor of accepting the application?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so accepted. All right, for further discussion on the information that we have before I call for a motion.
I feel like everything is pretty good on the application. The proportions, everything else is actually reproducing a lot of the historic detail of it. Our only concern seems to be whether that door is appropriate in that location, whether that should be more like the existing condition where it's a concealed door, or if we want to have that as something that they're introducing the other piece that was on the building.
Right, okay.
I could see it either way for myself. If someone has a strong feeling that that should be more of a concealed door, I would go ahead with that. Or if there's a mood to preserve the, I don't know how old that door is.
Well, it's a question of what we have in front of us, despite saying we're not trying to mimic it, it's almost completely mimicking that elevation, other than the lattice work and that door not being a hidden door. Those are really the only two pieces that are not a mimic of it. So I think we either go one direction or we go another. And it's not a replication of it, and we don't recommend a replication of it, and we have these interesting, the oval-shaped window as a preservation of the piece. Or we ask about something other than mimicking that elevation. I think right now it's trying to do both. It's conflicting because it's saving that piece while also trying to mimic. So,
Well, I think it's a rather clever compromise. I mean, if I can't have the lattice work, then, which I clearly can't, then I would accept this. I mean,
Lattice work could be painted on.
well, we're,
Not into painting faux finishes, and we don't.
I am.
yes.
I could make it look just like that.
was the lattice work that was on there, was that solid construction, wood? Or was that actually plywood? Okay, because I know that the arches that are there that exist, those are plywood. Those have actually been replaced.
Yeah, obviously.
At some point. So I was curious about the lattice as well. I guess I'm torn seeing a vertical slab door in a horizontal plane. That's what's, and then there's an oval in there too. It's, for me, it's just, it's conflicting in that respect. So I'm leaning more towards, let's mimic, what's there. Instead of having the lattice, we have horizontal panels and we hide the door. I mean, I guess that's what I'm in favor of. Obviously, I'm only one voice.
It'd be a lot cleaner, and it would also, I mean, it is a new structure attached to an old structure, and it's respecting the massing and the proportions of the old structure, but it's not trying to be an old structure. It's trying to be what it is. So if you were doing just that building by itself, you probably wouldn't put that vertical door in a horizontal
Right.
plane, yeah.
And I think I think that's a good comment. I think the window in that, now that you've mentioned it, it doesn't fit. It troubles me. So I think not having that, feature on that door would enhance that whole side. I think
So,
It's a matter of taste, I mean, it's just a
I
little,
guess
to me,
it
it's a little
is.
tacky.
well, it just, yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
envisioning that if this is a hidden door, that the construction would be that the outside of plywood would line up with the outside flush of door, and the finish would go across the whole
Yeah,
thing.
you'd have to have some
And you'd
good
basically have a
sauce
seam,
hinges or something.
that goes, very similar to how the door is hidden now in the lattice. The lattice is the finish that goes over it, and it's just,
There you go, you're
hinges off.
replicating the underlying pattern of the historical structure.
I mean, I guess that would be a way to achieve that hidden doorness, that's there now. But, I'll leave that open to anyone else. I think Curtis is torn.
I am torn. I do like the quirkiness of that old door, but I can see that following the pattern that's there is appropriate to put something follows that horizontal line and stays flush would look very clean and appropriate.
Its quirkiness makes sense on the rear elevation with that arched window above.
Yeah, I guess you're
that,
right.
That has a circular shape to it as well. That seems completely out of place as well, because it's a very ornate window on the very back of the building.
Yeah.
Looks like it should be on the front of the house.
The little shed roof over the door adds something too. Because the fact that it's not quite level or plumb.
Yeah. Well, you could see the threshold of the door too. I think it's like a 9-inch step up or something, even to get into it, into that space. Because it's a whole floor.
Yeah.
There's a whole floor framed in there.
And it's more than 9 inches.
Yeah,
It's a little bit.
all right.
Step.
The one other comment that I would ask is that we ask for a condition to respect the proportions of the window lights on the front of the home. Meaning if they are square, make them square. If they are portrait, make them portrait in their orientation. To that respect, also matching the mutton widths of the existing.
Yes.
They're likely, they could be 1/2 inch, they could be 5/8. Yeah. Thin proportions, and I know Roscoe does that. So I guess I'll ask for a consensus before we make that door, being a flush door with the horizontal pattern to be hidden, a condition. Do we have a consensus to make that a condition of the approval? You don't have to say yes or no, we're just discussing.
I can go ahead with that. I believe that that would follow the existing conditions of the building where it's a matching condition with the lattice, and to provide a door that matches the new garage panels would be appropriate.
Okay. All right.
Well, sure, I mean, I don't really care wildly about, frankly, your garage door.
Yeah, glad to have you on the board.
There are things that I'll fight for, but that's not one of them.
All right. All right, so I think it sounds like we've got 3 conditions. Would someone like to make a motion?
I motion to approve the application with the following conditions: that the proportion of the glass lights is to match the existing house proportions, with similar mullion width to the existing on the new windows, and with a flush door in similar pattern to the new garage panels, in lieu of the oval window door, vertical door that was proposed.
All right,
Second,
we have a second. All right. All in favor of the conditional approval?
Aye.
aye.
All right, so approved. Thank you very much.
Appreciate your time, thank you.
So we'll,
Especially your
Oh, we like the application.
you
It looks
very
good. Thank you. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you. Don't be afraid of quirky. Those old Yankees were quirky too.
Yeah, they sure were.
it's, it was probably a door he had laying around, right? The hardware guy? Of course.
Reuse that door somewhere else.
Yeah.
Off of
And the
somebody
window in
else's
the back.
house.
And the window in the back. All right, so that concludes our public hearings. Moving on to other business. We had the State Commission for Coastal Resilience and Economic Development Program as detailed in SB 285. I believe that was something Julie wanted to
Yes, she did.
bring to our attention, so we will table that to the next meeting.
If you can
Discussion-
refresh us on that, that is a proposal to include other communities in our historic, is that what it
Overall,
was?
it's sort of like a
Overall.
giant overall historic district, except it really isn't a historic district, do you?
Right, and we don't have an adjacent town that has a historic district or a historic board.
No,
Portsmouth is the closest one.
Kensington just turned it down.
Okay.
As a regulatory board?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna claim ignorance on that in the sense that I believe it was trying to create almost like a district, a regional district.
Regional, yeah.
For the purposes of, chasing funding
Yep.
Sharing
for
resources.
coastal resilience and economic development.
Okay.
But I don't wanna speak beyond that, because I don't know beyond that. We'll have to wait for Julie to fill us in on that one. And also, the second item that's here, discussion on demolition review process. I believe that was also coming from Julie as how that is currently operating with the Heritage Commission's recommendations for us on demolition.
That goes back to the 7 Oak Street house that was torn down with no permission back last fall. And they came in on a Sunday and razed the house to the ground, and nobody found out about it until the next week. And
So, at a minimum, they should have put in an application for the Heritage Commission
yes,
to review,
to review, because anything that's being torn down should come before us,
right?
but they didn't.
But
So what do you do?
But Oak
after
Street's
the fact?
not-
No,
within the historic district?
no.
Correct.
It is not.
Yeah.
So what do
That's
you
why
do
when it-
after the fact? Well, basically, all you do is wring your hands. They can be fined, but frankly, the fine isn't enough to bother anybody who's redoing their house. And we talked to Doug Eastman, and he said just what I told you.
Well, the Heritage Commission is also an advisory, not regulatory.
Correct.
So if they violate something from an advisory board, it's not necessarily a penalty of a violation of the zoning ordinance.
Well, actually it is, because you're supposed to come before the board if you tear something down,
Okay,
want to tear something down.
so the fact they didn't submit anything as an
Yes.
application, okay. So I think it's part that, but also demolition review in the sense of our own demolition review process on what is within the historic district, to make sure that we're not making any conditional approvals for demolition, and understanding that our decisions on approval of a demolition should be tied to the property and not the ownership.
Precisely, but it already is by our own rules.
To the property.
It's just that this particular property owner simply ignored it. And I can't believe that whoever he called in as a company didn't know that they were supposed to do it, but,
Are you talking about the Seven Oaks property?
yeah,
Okay, I was talking about something else.
so,
So I mean, you're not supposed to be able to demolish something without getting a demolition permit from the town.
correct.
And were they issued a demolition permit?
No,
Well,
That's a use violation.
that's something that they should have been fined for.
well, they can be, but,
They should be, because then the next guy's gonna say, but they didn't do anything last time, so who cares?
well, I believe he was fined, and I believe he paid it, but again,
Mm-hmm.
when you look at the cost of rebuilding a house,
That's
you
not,
evil person, yeah, you have to pay me $1,000, sure, here you go.
Right,
Sure, here you go.
gotcha. Well, the other piece of that, I was talking about 1 Franklin Street.
Yes, yes, I remember that vividly.
In particular, because that was a demolition that we approved,
With a condition, which was a terrible mistake.
and we did approve it to approve what was going to replace it, and the property was subsequently sold. And it was tied to the owner, not the property.
Correct.
And that's a flaw. That's in our regulations. That's in our zoning ordinance. Because if they, exactly in this property, the property was demolished and then sold as a vacant lot, and that new applicant, or basically the new ownership, did not rebuild.
And now it is a parking lot.
Yeah. So, I think that's part of the discussion as well. But we can leave that more so for next time. Last piece on there would be the approval of the minutes for December 19th, 2019. Everyone get a chance to read through them?
I have two very picky things. Let's see, line 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Robert stated that they did not get any opposition from the bank. Well, of course they didn't, because the bank was the one that was giving the application. So, what he meant was he didn't get any opposition from the museum.
Okay.
Okay. And now down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They are readjusting the parking area and loose some space. And they loose it out, I think you mean lose, just 1 O. And that's it for me.
I had one, I don't know if it was on the second page. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the seventh line down, it starts with base. Is that meant to be composite, C-O-M-P-O-S-I-T-E?
Oh, yeah, composite is spelled wrong. Base being, it's spelled C-O-M-P-O-S-I-T-E.
And then I think 3 lines down from that,
oh, okay.
Probably eliminate the B. I think it's a question, will you, or either say B combining, or will you combine parking? One or the other.
Yeah, would you be combining parking? Or will you combine, let's just get rid of the B, that will take care of the whole problem.
Okay. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, down from that, middle of the sentence, what will be
What
the
will be-
material?
That's where the B should go.
Yeah, yeah.
Bees on the loose.
Bees on the loose. And is this, I don't know, is this continuous corneas, is that,
Oh,
I don't know.
for that, so no, that's not corneas, that's for the eye.
Sounds
Um,
cornice?
What is it?
cornice, yes,
Cornice?
yeah.
On the middle paragraph, it starts with a column capital,
Cornice.
the last sentence of that.
Cornice.
Cornice. I was like, cornea? I don't know. I don't look that one up.
Cornus.
That was all
In that last paragraph, second line, Jeremiah Johnson with its McHenry architecture. Instead of McKinney.
Okay. Oh, yeah, we can't adjourn at the very end. Pam made a motion to adjourn to adjourn. I think I only did just one adjourn.
All right. Let me reread this.
I thought recuse was the wrong word. I never heard that word before, so I'm like, what's this, is this wrong?
Oh, no, let's see, you hear it all the time if you watch the news.
I do, but I never hear it.
All right, anything else?
Good. I move to accept the minutes as amended.
All right. We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. We have enough people here, myself, Pam,
And myself, so
and yourself, Curtis. We have 3. We need 4.
Oh, dear.
We'll have to table
Put
it.
me in. No.
You can't work here?
It has to be members present. It has to be four members present to approve. So we will include them as amended, but we'll have to approve them at the next meeting. Kathy's-
Kathy would have to be here to
Yep.
approve it, because Greg is no longer on the board.
It's true, but, or after 3 times, then it becomes written law.
Becomes the law.
My father built this house.
All right, with nothing else on.
Do you have an update on the windows that went to the ZBA for review?
The Miller residence?
Yes, I believe that's, those are it.
So the Miller residence did appeal, the second structure of our decision. And the December meeting was rescheduled. The January meeting,
Was canceled, wasn't it?
no, January meeting, they ran out of time. I was here for 3 hours. They went till 10 o'clock and they ran out of time. So they never heard the application. And then it was supposed to be Tuesday of this week, and the Millers asked for it to be tabled till March.
Oh,
Okay.
jeez.
So it's still outstanding,
Still
and
outstanding, okay.
I am still planning to attend.
Thank you.
In favor of or for any questions, comments to uphold our decision. And
So is that
So be
the
it.
third Tuesday?
it is I believe it is the 3rd Tuesday.
Which is also Heritage Commission, but all right. Maybe we can be in two places.
If anyone could, you could.
I don't know, I'll have to look at, I don't even know what the date is in March. So,
Yep.
but so far, that's where it's at. The application has not yet been heard
Okay.
by ZBA. But when it does, I plan to be there, hopefully.
Great.
I can be in town. So that's all I've got. Any other topics of discussion needed? Good, you know, on your mind?
No, no.
No? All right, good enough.
Well,
All right.
thank you both for coming. I hope
Yes, thank
had a-
you.
You will come
Thank you.
back.
Welcome to the new members.
Thank you, thank you.
So without anything else, I will call for a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second, no need to approve. All adjourned.
8 o'clock.
Thank you.
All right.